Hello friends, today I'm going to show you how to play with the King's Indian defense. King's Indian defense is primarily a black's opening, so let me flip the board. And it arises from when white plays d4 and black starts with knight to f6 and then c4. A lot of people made a mistake playing e4 because they are so used to accustomed to playing with e4 and d4 openings, but here knight can immediately capture it. So here when white plays c4, he plays g6, and so in the King's Indian opening, black is trying to have a very solid defense around the king side. So the bishop will go to g7 and then black will castle king side, and then it also allows white to build on the center and then attack onto the center. So here knight to c3, now you are preparing e4. So bishop to g7 and then e4. uh, you need to very careful, do not castle at this point because e5 is coming. So d6. So as you see, actually, as I said, this is a very passive opening. This is because if you look at the positions at the moment, none of the pieces or the pawns from the black has passed through 6th rank. So all black is trying to do is to first take his king into the safety, and then develop his minor pieces and wait and see how the white responds to it. So here what black is trying to do is, now first you will castle and then you will see e5 or at point c5 or even b5 as well. So basically attacking onto the center. But for the white, the main move here is bishop to e2. So bishop to e2 is allowing knight to come onto f3, and then there will be castle onto the king side as well for the white. So castles for black, and then the most common move for the white is to bring the bishop down to g5. So basically what black is trying to do, black is trying to attack onto this knight. Sorry, white is trying to attack onto this knight. So friends, from the black's perspective here, black does have few different options, but ideally black would like to attack onto the queen side of the board, and for that they will play, say, c5. So what black is trying to do is opening some lines, and what if you play with an experienced white King Indian player, he will play here d5. So he will not let you open the d file. But friends, this is from the black player. As a black player, you would like white to do, because that weakens the white center control, right? Although you go for an exchange from the c5 at c5, but now if you see, the white has a little bit has weakened the center, and that's what black is aiming for, and now you will attack onto this center. So from here, where would you like this knight to develop? You can, of course, you cannot develop onto this c6. So knight can go either on d7 and then b6. But does it? But pause the video and try to analyze, is this a good square for the knight? Because first it blocks the b7 pawn. It also blocks uh, the activity for the light square bishop to develop onto this b7 square. So the better move for the black for the knight is go to knight to a6, and then it will come onto c7 square. Here knight will be developed at f3 as white is preparing castle onto the king side, and and then you bring your knight to c7. Now you're basically trying to preparing a6 and b5. Now friends, let's have a look at the classical variation. So from this position, white is going to play um, knight to f3 instead um, of bringing bishops into the action. So black is going to castle here, and then the next move white is play is bishop to e2 instead of playing bishop to g5. So here black has an option to play e5, and then white normally castles at this position, and now you can play knight to c6 because you have a pawn on e5 and then who has a support available from d6. So knight to c6 is definitely possible. So friends, that is a classical variation where black is trying to attack onto the center and white is trying to develop his pieces onto the queen side. A lot of time you will see in this variation black develops his knight onto uh, e7 and tries to attack onto the king side of the white. All depends how white responds here. If white pushes the pawn further to d5, then knight to e7 is the normal reply, and then you can counter attack from the king side as well, queen side as well. Sorry. Now, friends, let's have a look at the Samish variation where white plays f3. This is a very aggressive opening from the white, and what you can see from the structure here is that white is going to castle onto the king queen side. So what white is trying to do is bringing his bishop out and then move queen out of the way and then castle on the queen side. So let's have a look at this. So here on this position, we of course our next move is to castle onto the king side as usual. So friends, as you know, when you have a castles onto the opposite sides, the player who attacks onto the kings first usually wins the game first. So here on this position, uh, normally black plays bishop to e3, and then you play c5. Basically, it's trying to play a gambit here, and then d takes c5, and then d takes c5, and then once the queens are exchanged, queen takes d8 and the rook takes d8, and bishop takes c5. So now bishop is trying to attack onto e7 pawn, which then you can easily defended it by knight to say c6. And now what you see here is you are blocking, you are taking control of the empty d file, which also prevents white to castle onto the king's queen side. Also friends, what you can see from this position, black is trying to take control of this d4 square. So the bishop is eyeing onto d4, the knight is eyeing onto the d4, and also of course the rook is also eyeing onto the d4, and in the same time black has a very safe king, uh, and on the other hand, white king is not very safe. It's open at the moment. Here on this position, what the white's first priority is to close the d file so you can castle onto the king queen side. So you see from this and this variation, you have also, although you have given up a pawn, but you have a very nice aggressive control of the game. Fen, let's go and have a look at one last variation where um, so here you usually play white plays knight to f3, so that's a Fiancato variation where both sides try to develop the bishop onto the g7 and then bishop onto uh, g2.
It's very common. But
So then I'm just going through the normal moves. So that is how you play the Fiancato variation. This variation, both sides have a very strong uh, king's defense onto the king side, and it's kind of a symmetrical variation. All the positions, if you see, the bishops are onto the g file, the knights are onto the f file, uh, and, and then you move forward from this position. But as you see, the white has a very strong center control, so you a lot of time you will see white usually play knight to d7 and takes control of those e and c5 squares. So this is because at any stage, if you want to move forward with your e5 or c5, it's very important to have a knight onto d7 so you can guard both the squares here. As you know, in the King's Indian defense, the black plays passive, so it's very important for the black to take control of those two uh, squares, so you can counter onto the white's center control. So friends, that's all for today about the King's Indian defense. I hope my video is helpful for you. If your opponent plays King's Indian, or you want to play King's Indian, so now hopefully you now know how what are the main lines. So till then, friends, take care. Let me know if you how your comments, and do subscribe to my videos. Take care. Bye bye.